Hey everybody, it's Roy from ANSgear. We're going to take a look at the Empire Resurrection Autococker today. This is kind of them with the name, or what they're trying to imply is they're trying to bring back that nostalgic autococker setup. They were great guns at the time. A lot of tinkering that you can do to them, and I think that's what drives a lot of people away from them, because if you tinker too much, the guns will stop working. So unless you really know what you're doing, don't tinker with them that much. They've tried to take a lot of that potential tinker failure out of the Resurrection and make it very user friendly, but still there's that possibility. So let's get inside of there, take a look at it. Quick start manual, regular manual. If you lose them, you can go to paintballsolutions.com and download them. Got our gun, barrel sleeve, and set of Allen keys. It's nice to get a full set. Underneath, we're going to get minimal spare parts kit, our barrel tip, and our back. We get 5 backs: 675, 680, 85, 90, and 95. Let's take those out there. Move that over here. Now you can see that the length of the back is quite long, so the control bore runs all the way through to here. Even though it looks like when you've got it screwed in here that your back is only that long, it actually extends all the way out to here. The longer your control bore section, the better your performance is going to be through your barrel. So to have it that long is great. Let's go ahead and thread this on really quick, and we'll weigh her up. Uh, 2 pounds 7 ounces, so definitely not heavy. Given the hopper, when you put it on there, fill it up with paint, and whatever tank you're using. Obviously, any paintball setup can get heavy, but at just under 2.5 pounds, not a heavy setup right there. So let's start with the gun. We'll go through all the parts of the gun really quick. If you're not familiar with the way autocockers work, some of this might not make sense to you, but hopefully we can explain it and you'll have an idea of how it works. On-off ASA at the bottom. This lever will degas, so if you have it gassed up and you flip the lever over, it will vent out the bottom, making it easier to take your tank off. Macro line over to your regulator. Your regulator is controlled through the bottom right here to control overall pressure into the gun. Now that pressure gets reduced down to another pressure, and then also the original pressure coming in through the regulator is used to shoot the ball. So you've got 2 stages going on in here. A lot of guns do that. A lot of even your high-end guns have an LPR system in there. This does, it's just kind of on the outside. So I believe the working pressure of these is right around 350 PSI. That goes into the gun. If you start to overpressurize, if you crank this up higher and higher and higher, your velocity will actually go down. So if you're thinking about just making your gun shoot like super hard for some reason, you can't really do that. If you increase the input pressure on your regulator, your velocity will go down. So don't try it, it doesn't work. Once you've got this set at about 350 PSI, then you'll use the IVG on the back to fine tune your velocity. By turning it in or out, you create tension on the spring, which drives the hammer harder into the valve, which creates either more or less air being let out to push the ball. Moving around to the front side up here, this is your front pneumatic kit. You've got 3 things typically on your front block. You've got your ram assembly, your low pressure regulator, and your 3-way. We'll talk about those in a minute. Coming back to this side, actuator rod connected to your trigger. These are not eyes right here. You can see that you've got them on both sides. These are just your detent covers. All right, so underneath these are where your detents sit. Pop the cover off, clean your detent, put the cover back on. Quick pull bolt pin, pop it up, slide the bolt out. When you go to put the bolt back in, there is a hole that it needs to go to, so make sure it does lock into the hole and drop all the way down and catch the hammer that sits underneath here. If you only lock it halfway, like this, when the gun goes back to cock, seeing as though you're not catching the hammer and dragging it back to catch, the gun won't work. So make sure you snap it all the way down so that when you pull it back, it catches, and when you pull the trigger, you hear it release. And it does have a clamping feed neck on there. So you can adjust that through here with either your fingers or with an Allen key to make it more tight or loose. And as far as the outside of the gun, those are the features. Now, we'll go through a brief description of how a gun like this works. It may be important to you, may not be. When you pull the trigger of an autococker, you're creating the cycle. So as you can see, the actuator rod is connected to the trigger. So when I pull the trigger, I control the actuator rod. So when the gun is under pressure and I pull the trigger, the gun will open up like this. And if I hold the trigger down, it will stay like that. When I let go of the trigger, this will slide back forward, and that completes my cycle. So the first thing that happens in a gun like this is it shoots, then it cycles. Now that's opposite of a lot of guns. It's why they call it a closed bolt marker. Do not misconstrue that with an enclosed bolt marker, meaning when the gun fires, the bolt is already forward and in a resting position. You pull the trigger, the first thing that happens is the ball shoots out the end of the gun. Then the gun cycles back and forth and loads another ball. If you compare that to, say, a Lux or a Matrix or an Ego, either the Geo or the LVs, they are open bolt, meaning the bolt is in a retracted state, resting, and the ball is sitting in the breech. When you pull the trigger, the first thing that happens is the bolt slides forward, then the ball shoots, then the bolt retracts, and a ball drops in. So it's a totally opposite system with these. And because of that system, people believe them to be a more accurate gun because there's no movement before the shot. The first thing that happens is the ball shoots with the gun being dead still. Then the cycle happens. So it keeps the gun more on target and makes the gun more accurate. Whether you believe that, that's up to you. I know they shoot well. So you control the cycle of the gun right here. The actuator rod runs up into the three-way. The three-way controls the direction of air coming through the LPR. So your air path goes from tank through the ASA into the regulator. The regulator reduces your input pressure to about 350. That goes behind the valve. So you've got 350 PSI sitting behind the valve. That pressure is also rerouted into the LPR. Now the LPR drops that down into the working pressure for the ram, which is typically between 60 and 80 PSI. That's all the pressure that's needed to move this thing back and forth. Okay, so by adjusting this right here, you will not increase velocity. You won't make the gun shoot faster or harder or straighter or anything. All you're gonna do is put more stress or less stress on the ram to make the block move back and forth. That's all. That's what this does. So once your pressure comes up in through here, goes into your valve, waits there, goes in through your LPR. Your LPR controls that and sends the pressure up through the three-way. When you move the actuator rod, the three-way, the shaft inside the three-way moves back and forth, and it controls the direction of airflow out of here. So in a resting position, airflow comes into the three-way, comes out the other side, and pressurizes the ram to move forward. That's why you'll always see it sitting in the forward position. When you pull the trigger, the actuator rod moves backwards, the three-way shifts, air comes in the middle still, always comes in the middle, but switches out the front, drives the ram backwards, and when I let go of the trigger, it switches again, air comes back through the back, drives the ram forward. So you're actually creating the cycle of the gun. And a lot of people have problems with that in the past with their autocockers, is by pulling the trigger too slow or not far enough, you can actually cause the gun to skip or burp or chop or do all sorts of stuff. Now they've tried to eliminate that problem by making the ramp of the sear really, really steep. So you don't have a chance to half stroke or short stroke. The sear moves really quick and makes it so that it's less likely to do it. So with that being said, definitely you want to check out this gun. It's a great shooter, comes in a bunch of different colors, so check the website for color availability and order your Resurrection through ANSgear.com.